Who are Metallica? I've never heard of them.
Yeah, I'll put something on for you. Back to the old school.
Do 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 do. Boom. Die, die, die. Help! Please help me.
Do 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 do.
What the fuck were they doing? God almighty.
They're pimply-faced teenagers on stage performing these amazing kind of musical feats.
You know that little thrash band of 3 years ago? They could be huge. They've got that potential to really appeal to a very, very big audience.
Holy crap, this band could be not just big in the UK and not just big in Europe, but this band could potentially be a worldwide phenomenon.
One thing that's characterised Metallica all the way through their career is their sincerity, you know, and up to a certain point maybe, but certainly, you know, for the first 15 years, their sincerity was everything, which is why they became the biggest metal band in the world, because that, you know, more people could relate to Metallica than to anyone else, you know, and there's a reason for that, you know.
They were so young, and when you look at the picture on the back of Kill 'Em All, you've never seen so many spots between four people. I mean, they were just kids. But they were appealing to kids of that age. I'm a spotty little her, but I could be doing that. That's fantastic.
Metallica. Yeah.
Their manager at the time, Johnny Z, sent me a tape which was a picture of a very unpleasant sword coming out of a toilet called Metal Up Your Ass, and I listened to it and I thought, whoa, crap, this is fantastic. And at that time, I mean, it seems weird to say it now, but you'd never heard of speed or thrash or whatever. And so it was a completely new phenomenon. And I played it to a few people, and they actually thought I was having a laugh.
It wasn't immediately obvious to everyone that either Metallica or thrash metal were forces to be, genuine forces to be reckoned with, whether they had any staying power. I think some people actually considered Metallica to be a bit of a joke, but certainly on reflection, it didn't take long for people to realise the quality of that album, that there were really some very strong songs there, as well as a very, very energetic sound, which really hadn't, I don't think anybody had quite heard anything like that before.
I can remember we did an initial pressing of 3,000 for the whole of Europe, and we didn't sell half of them in the first month. And I'm thinking, oh, holy crap, I've really stuffed this one.
At the time that Kill 'Em All came out, a lot of heavy metal was just about Dungeons and Dragons, and it was quite boring, it was quite cliched. It was becoming a bit embarrassing for a bit more of the intelligent side of heavy metal, so I think what Metallica did was sort of dust the cobwebs off heavy metal, and that album was kind of a blueprint of where they would go.
You have to really put it into context and perspective. Yes, we'd had Iron Maiden come through. Yes, we'd had the new wave of British heavy metal. Yes, we'd had the birth of a new form of extreme metal, thanks to bands such as Venom. But Metallica really took everything into a new arena. And the reason is simple: songs. Every track stands out. That's what made it a landmark debut. Songs, crucial songs that people remembered, and as soon as they heard the title, a medley and a melody came into the mind, as well as a heavy-duty riff.
Kill 'Em All was a collision of styles that had never really happened before. It was the old school metal, but it was also it also had the energy of punk and the speed of punk rock and hardcore, and it also had the kind of that nasty, scuzzy, playing in sweaty shitholes kind of vibe to them, and Metallica had that in spades. They were obviously, swilling booze like maniacs, and they were all about, taking speed and going berserk, and you could hear that on the record. It was a dirty rock and roll record, but it was, thrash metal is the phrase that absolutely defines what it was all about.
It was a turning point in the metal genre because it was so fast and it was so raw. And a lot of people found that a little bit hard to take, actually. Some people thought it wasn't polished enough. Some people thought it wasn't refined enough. On the other hand, a lot of people got really into it because it was just so fast and so heavy.
It just tapped all the touchstones that defined the genre. Just like the downstroke chucking guitars, the finger shredding leads, like the shouted vocals. I mean, just like James Hetfield was no operatic vocalist. I mean, he was like a punk singer, singing those kinds of things. The only difference was they weren't three-chord melodies. There was something far more complex and aggressive. And so I think in a way, it wasn't as groundbreaking as I think a lot of people want to believe it was. It simply crystallized the sound, and it gave people a launching off point. Once they heard that, they knew what they should try to emulate if they wanted to be a thrash band.
If you look at the cover, you can see basically a bunch of spotty Herberts on the back, with bad mullets and cut off denim jackets, and they were young kids playing really loud metal, and they were drinking a lot and doing drugs and going mental, and the lyrics reflect that. They weren't great philosophers, and you're not going to get sort of any kind of massive amounts of profundity in their lyrics, and nor should you. I mean, Whiplash, when the chorus goes, thrashing like a maniac, that was what that song was about, so you didn't need to have any kind of poetry to go with that.
Basically what they were doing was just knocking out a load of metal cliches. James himself admitted this later on, that the lyrics on Kill 'Em All were just tosh. In Whiplash, there's the line, "Bang your head against the stage like you never did before. Make it ring, make it bleed, make it really sore." Which tells you something about the level of songwriting in 1982.
It's just so primitive and gritty that it immediately connects with an audience. You can bang your head to it, and you know that at some point James Hetfield's going to shout Whiplash, and then the solo kicks in and everybody goes berserk and starts throwing their pints around,
It had a crazy guitar solo in that Kirk Hammett just unleashed from nowhere. It doesn't come in at a normal point in a song. It just hits you when you're not quite expecting such guitar work to kick in, and it throws you, and because of that you just want to let rip yourself and do some air guitar work to it.
Sometimes with Slayer, they tended to lose the melody in a lot of dense heaviness. Metallica never lost sight of the fact that what made a song happen was it stayed in people's minds, and Whiplash is a part of that. They do go for the blurring solos, they do go for hyperspeed, but beyond all that, there was a discipline and a melody.
You can only go so fast before you become just like a blur or like a drill or something. So and to actually still have any really serious musical quality, you can't really go that much faster than Whiplash. I would be very surprised if Metallica went through a whole tour and didn't play the likes of the Four Horsemen, Whiplash and Seek and Destroy. I mean, those are songs that will get, 50,000 people at a festival going mad because everybody knows them. And even though the album didn't, obviously the album sold really steadily over the years, and everybody knows those tracks now, and they are they're heavy metal classics.
Well, Seek and Destroy is kind of like an anthemic heavy metal song, basically. You can bang your fist in the air, you can headbang to it if you have hair. It's a bit of a no-brainer as a song, really, but what it does is it's a rebel-rousing anthem, really, for a tortured youth almost. You can bang your head, you can shake your fist, and throw the devil horns at it.
The actual song itself is intriguing because it's about someone who goes out looking for fights, and people often mistake it for some sort of militia track, a military action and attitude. It's not. It's really about people who go out looking for fights after they've got slightly drunk or gone into other things.
Funnily enough, it was one of the songs that saw him evolve a bit as a frontman. He was quite unconfident before that, but when he had a bit that he could sing along with and get the audience to get involved with, it did him a lot of good as a performer, I think.
Come on, man! Give it! All right, then. You guys know Lars? Yes, sir. Hello!
Above all else, I mean, it's a very, very catchy song, and I think it kind of proves that Metallica always had a really good ear for sort of catchy riffs and melodies right from the beginning. So although they were very extreme, they sounded very extreme in 1983, there were still some sort of classic rock moves on the album. And Seek and Destroy is just a really simple sort of chugging riff.
Metallica always did killer choruses. There's certainly numerous songs on Kill 'Em All that have got huge choruses and anthemic choruses, stuff that they're still playing those songs live now because they work so well in a live setting. Seek and Destroy being the obvious one, and Hit the Lights, I suppose, and Whiplash as well. They're all things that people can bellow along after a few beers. Which were maybe some of the later thrash bands, the bands that followed after them. Although there's always stuff you can shout along to. They they weren't melodically strong, a lot of those bands. It was more about the speed and the aggression, whereas with Metallica, the song was always paramount, even when they were playing at 100 miles an hour.